Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Right, in today's video we're going to be going over all of the 6 champions that are currently available for vote, and we're going to be breaking them down slightly, and I'm going to be going over the things that I personally am and will consider when it will come to casting my vote, and I will let you guys know which champion or champions are going to be the ones that I will vote for myself. Right, but before we get to nitty-gritty bits of the video and actual champion breakdowns, I just wanted to tell first and foremost that whichever champion you want to vote for is perfectly fine. Your opinion is just as valid as anyone else's. And if you want to cast a vote for purely selfish reasons, for instance, if you happen to have one of these champions as a 6-star, sure, vote for that. That's what I suspect a large portion of the player base will do, because this isn't just like a show of, I don't know, favoritism, but it's also something that could potentially affect your own account. And if you want to stack the cards in your favor, you obviously will vote for the champion that you actually do have and you do not have to bother trying to acquire. So that is where the situation is also different. And if I only would have one of these champions as a 6-star, I'd probably be leaning towards that champion. Or would I? Because ironically, I will more than likely vote for the one champion or of the 2 that I do not have as a 6-star myself, just because I would believe that they are the best picks. Anyways, right, so we do have Thor, Jane Foster, Miss Marvel, Joe Fixit, AntMan, Guillotine, and Agent Venom. Let's go over all of them. Let's starting with Thor, Jane Foster. And for me personally, Thor, Jane Foster has never really struck a chord with me. I have never really, I don't know, enjoyed character outside of this game, and that is where we're going to start with every single character where I personally have some sort of affection towards, which is again a valid thing to take into consideration whilst casting your vote, even though for me, since I'm more of a pragmatic person and maybe a bit more calculative person, don't really care for that as much, but more for the champion's role in this game in particular, because this is the game that we play. But when it comes to Jane Foster, never been a particularly great fan, and that's perfectly fine if you are. But additionally to that, I do think that Mystic Class is in a relatively good shape right now. There are champions that definitely do need to be updated, including Jane Foster. But if I would break it down to the classes that need more help, I would not go with the Mystic Class, because Mystic Class has been getting and seems to be getting quite a lot of love from Kabam in recent year and a half, 2 years. That being said, we can also see that her synergies are quite rubbish. She doesn't really synergize with too many great champions, and the synergy list is relatively short for such an old champion. So that, to me, would be the key factor why I would not personally vote for Jane Foster. It's because she would not really improve any of the champions that I would frequently end up bringing in the quest. There is a synergy with Cap and there is synergy with White Magneto, but yeah, not all that there. Go with Kamal Khan. Now, Kamal Khan is a bit different story. Now, again, I am not personally a huge fan of Kamal Khan from comics, but in the game, obviously, I do think she is underrated as is, and I do think that she is probably the best champion that's up here for a rework. And if anything, I'd rather see her get a moderate buff, or perhaps, well, probably moderate buff is what she needs to add some extra bits of utility. I don't even think she needs a full-on rework. Synergy-wise, she does synergize with Nick Fury, but that is the Fury increased duration synergy, same with Black Bolt, and that typically is only used for some cheesy situations, not really in all that important situations. A synergy with Stark Enhanced Spider-Man, who has unfortunately fallen down from prominence as well himself. And then we have synergy with Captain Marvel movie version, which kind of is quite, well, useful, but it doesn't give the bonus to Captain Marvel movie that's worth fighting for, and this bit would probably change because the champion's changing. So, synergy department, she's not doing too strongly. Fan appeal department, not really for me. And then there's also the fact that I think that Kamal Khan is actually the most usable out of all of the champions that we are looking at here, so she will not be getting my vote. Now we're going to take a look at Joe Fixit, and I do know that Joe Fixit has a quite big of backing. And I like Joe Fixit, but I would not sleep comfortably voting for Joe Fixit, knowing that there are more Hulks that need help prior to looking at Joe Fixit, so to speak. No, but that's not actually the main reason. Now, when I'm gonna go over the comic appeal and the character as a whole, I do like him. I do like him, and I do like the idea of having a strong Joe Fixit. But there is one more thing besides his relatively modest amount of synergies. What would hold me back voting for Joe Fixit? And that is quite simply the fact that he is, in fact, a relatively rare champion as a 5-star. That means whoever votes for Joe Fixit would vote for a champion that would have a chance of helping the least amount of players. Because out of all of the champions on this list, Joe Fixit has joined the 6-star pool most recently, or close to most recently. He's only available in the 6-star basic pool for, I think, half a year max, or not even that. And then on top of that, he is exclusive 5-star. He's not in a 5-star basic pool, and if you have him as a 5-star, that means you either grinded for him in the exclusive arena that was for him, or you got him from some incursion crystal or something like that. There we go. Therefore, Joe Fixit to me is out by default, because he's not commonly easily accessible champion. And whether I like him or not doesn't really matter in this situation. I would not feel good voting for him, knowing that majority of the player base simply do not have access to him. So therefore, definitely not Joe Fixit. Now, AntMan, and this is where things get more interesting. So, I have for months now been saying that I want to see OG Avengers getting buffed, and whilst I do not necessarily immediately think of AntMan as an OG Avenger, I can't deny that Paul Rudd is a very popular MCU actor right now, and so is AntMan. AntMan has another movie coming up, and I always feel bad for the guy, especially because his entire ability list consists of this. And signature ability. That's it. That's literally it. So he basically has no abilities. And I don't have a 6-star AntMan myself. I do have 5-star, but I don't have a 6-star. But even that being said, my vote is likely going to go to AntMan, because A, he's Avenger and very prominent MCU character right now. So I want those champions to be good in the game, because I do think that is a healthy thing for the game to have, because when new people download the game, they do not ever download this game to play with Howard the Duck. Granted, they might not download it to play with AntMan, but you never know. With the popularity of the solo films, there might be some of those people who do. And on top of that, it would just feel right that since he is an Avenger, and since he has been present in the Endgame, since he has had 2 solo movies now, so on and so forth, that he is actually a decently playable, usable character. Now, getting on the sweeter bits, also the fact that Science class is a relatively small class, smallest class in the game, and Science class is definitely not the weakest class, but I would like to see more good champions in Science class, because currently Science class is basically managing to do a lot with very, very few characters. And I would like the bottom of the Science class to get better. On top of all of that, there is another reason, and the last reason is obviously his synergies. And most people will immediately start talking here about Ghost Trinity and having that all stuff happening. And to be honest, like, I don't really even value that Ghost Trinity's aspect that much. Why? Because Ghost can handle her own. Most of the time you don't even use AntMan, not because AntMan's a bad champion, just because you don't really have the space to add the additional spot for him. Why? Because you typically rely on Hood being able to face the recall damage and phase level 3s, and Wasp and making your specials unblockable. AntMan offers more damage to Ghost via synergy, but damage is not really Ghost's problem. So that is not the synergy reason that I'm looking for and that everybody's talking about, but to me that's personally relatively irrelevant. The reasons that I am talking about, though, is the synergy with Nick Fury. And that Nick Fury synergy is with Quake and AntMan. And it is one of the most powerful synergies in the game. It is the synergy that grants you 3 away charges. Now, pretty much you have to bring in Quake if you want to have access to that synergy. On top of that, Quake is not available as a 6-star champion. Therefore, having an alternative option that is available at the highest rarity and is fairly common would ensure that this synergy, which I consider to be one of the most useful and practical synergies because it involves amazing champions, would keep its longevity. Because even if content evolves to a point where you're using 6-star rank 4s, 6-star rank 5s, and Quake is nowhere to be seen, we would still be able to utilize this because of AntMan, if he's actually good. So therefore, for me, that is all the reason that I need. On top of that, we also have synergy with like Ronin and also Falcon. And you might think about that Falcon synergy is all champions gain 6% perfect block chance and 3% attack rating. But how Falcon has a unique ability where for every synergy that he actually triggers himself, he grants additional attack to entire team. And since Falcon is such a prominent skill character, once more, I do believe that it would also be a realistic situation where you could benefit from it. And then on top of that, obviously, we do have the Yellow Jacket, the Wasp, and the Ghost synergies that most people will immediately look at. So overall, my pick will definitely go for AntMan, even though I currently do not have him as a 6-star champion. I do think it would be the best and most practical thing in the game. This is where my head is at, and this is, in my opinion, the best choice because it actually has the biggest chance of impacting top tier content, end-game content, high tier alliance war content. Because if AntMan is good, obviously, then that will be helpful. But on top of that, if he's at the very least playable, we could be using this OP synergy with Nick Fury, and we could be further buffing champions with Falcon, and then obviously whenever we want to go with stupid imbecile numbers of Ghost by hopefully keeping this aspect of that synergy there as well. So yes, AntMan is who I would recommend voting for. Now we can take a look at the last 2 champions, and Guillotine is actually my second pick. Guillotine is who I would vote if I would vote with my heart rather than my brain, for the reasons that Guillotine, number 1, is Marvel OG character, and ever since her release, I absolutely love that sword and the way she makes me feel when I'm using the champion. Number 2, she's one of the older Mystic champions that I have always liked as well, but even with that, she also has a very long list of useful synergies with many useful champions. She has one of the best synergies with Night Thrasher. She has a synergy with Strife, letting him start the fight invisible. She has synergy with Heimdall, which we quite frequently could rely on better if Guillotine was actually good. And then she has synergy with Ronin, with Morningstar, with Guillotine 2099, and all of those are relevant champions. So voting for Guillotine makes sense strategically, tactically, and also, well, based on my personal kind of enjoyment of the character. Because I'm not gonna lie, these reworks will not involve character animation changes, and I don't like AntMan's animations too much. But then again, same could have been said about like Colossus and Magneto, and both of them are phenomenal champions. So that might not be the deal breaker that my brain perceives it to be. But I still think AntMan is the best choice. Guillotine is a very solid choice in my opinion as well. Very logical and very reasoned. Last one is Agent Venom, which I guess is a decent pick. I mean, out of all the champions, I think he probably is second best. He definitely does need help as well. And probably an overhaul just because the ability set is relatively short. Maybe a moderate level buff would suffice. Just like it did for Crossbones and Falcon. But skill is getting so much love right now. So that skill class is kind of the reason I want to sway back from it. Because we have already gotten quite few buffs in skill class. We just received a new skill champion. We know for a fact next buff coming is Black Panther, which is another skill champion getting buffed. And I do think that I'd prefer Science Champion, I'd prefer, or Mystic, I guess. One of those two champions get a bit more help. And I can fully understand why people would like to vote for Agent Venom, because again, he has quite a big following in the comics, and he's quite a cool character, but he, I don't know, it just didn't speak to me as much as the previous two champions do. So my vote personally is going to go for Ant-Man. Now, again, remember that no matter which champion you decide to vote for, no matter for what reasons, that's perfectly fine. Your opinions are the ones of your own. But my pick is going to be Ant-Man, because he's no G-Avenger, because he has this awesome synergy with Nick Fury, because he can perhaps juice up Ghost a bit, but again, that's not even all that important. So yes, vote. I am going to be voting for Ant-Man. But that is it for today. As I said, please do let me know who do you plan to vote on. And I'll leave you guys be. See you later. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information